January and February, just like, and then April. Yeah.
What's that?
Do you want me up here or am I good to start here?
There. Oh, you say, if you want, there's some tables back there.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just stand if the tables are all lean on it and like fall over.
All right, well, I got the webcast going, so welcome everyone. I don't think there's any new people here, so I don't have to go through and explain, the background of our group and everything, other than we're 42 years old now. 1978 it started. And so our real mission is to help inventors transition from product to business, which is the most difficult thing, and to make your patent and trademark and copyright and all that actually pay off for you. That's where a lot of people get stuck and have a difficult time. So that's what we try to help with. And that's been our kind of overriding goal and everything. So our future schedule, we meet the second and fourth Mondays. Same time and place. Once in a while, we'll have maybe a meeting at the patent office or the Denver Public Library downtown for some search training and stuff. Special events, but usually always here. And so our next meeting will be the latest in 3D printing with Dave Scarcano from Midwest Prototyping. So I told him to especially get into all the different material options that are now available, both in plastics and metals, especially because metals is coming on big on that. And then we've got a business administrative guy coming the second Friday in February. He's going to talk about focusing on revenue and managing your business, because he's got experience in large organizations. He was recommended by an investor consultant we have. So we try to have a wide diversity of different topics. And then the fourth Monday in February, we got Patrick, who's going to focus on manufacturing options, right? I mean, to put it in a nutshell. So everyone's always interested in the scene in China and what it takes and how that works and everything to eventually get going, because it's the only way you can get your unit costs acceptably down after your prototyping and everything. So let's go ahead and start round robin with you, Dan.
Hi, my name is Dan, and I'm not an inventor, but I'm here to listen to other people's ideas and to learn from that. That's why I'm here.
Okay, and Desi, yeah.
I have a product that's on the market that I do sell, and I'm making a change to it. It's not patentable in its current state, and I'm making a change to it and hoping to be able to patent it in the new design. So.
Okay, good. Patrick.
I'm Patrick Mogg. My company is Scale and Products Group. We help companies from manufacturing with invention launchpad, inventor launchpad, and we are basically franchise owners for this region for that, all the way through monetization, warehousing, fulfillment of that product once it does get short. So we help all the way through that process to take that invention all the way to the market.
Okay, Steve.
I am a serial inventor. Been doing it for 39 years now, and am finally gotten around to working on a design for a pallet loader unloader for vehicles, and I can't imagine not doing something else other than inventing.
You like the hard life, right? See, inventors, they just about by default have to be loners, because you've got a vision that you have to stick to, and no one else has it. Like, and you gotta have faith, blind faith in that vision.
But it's really not blind faith, because when it comes down to inventing, every invention, every single one, is a thought problem.
Mhm.
And you have to think of it in the terms of it being in a thought problem. You cannot be satisfied with the current state of
Right,
the invention.
Because discontent is the root of all invention.
That's correct.
The status quo, yeah.
And I'm discontented.
Yeah, no, really, you need, yeah, these inventors have to have their passion and their discontent. Okay, Mark?
Yes. Sorry, I'm Mark, inventor, serial entrepreneur. I've done over 5 businesses, and it's just really great.
Okay. And Roberto?
I'm Roberto Kristina. I'm a patent agent. I've been practicing patent law for 15 years, and I'm an electrical engineer, and I am the US correspondent of a few Italian law firms. So I do filing and prosecution of patent application that usually they already been filed with the European Patent Office or so, and kind of maybe a PCT.
Okay, and
Hi, I'm Julie Reavers. I work with Kristina.
oh, of course, I email you all the
Yeah,
time.
we work all the time. So I am the regional outreach officer for the patent office here in Denver.
What does that mean?
Outreach. I look for opportunities for outreach to get information to the community and to the public and to stakeholders about what the patent office does and what resources are.
Yeah, basically like to increase the interaction, right? From your customer
Absolutely, yes.
to their services. Okay, so our speaker is Kristina DeHerrera. She's works with Molly Wachowski, who is out of town, right? So that'll be good. We'll get because Molly's been here, I don't know, 3 times maybe? Last 3 times.
3 times.
In 40 years.
Yeah, so she comes here like I have everything. Anyway, we try to run Q&A interactive all during the presentation. So don't hold your questions. Please speak up and ask questions, because certainly anything to do with patents and trademarks. And probably not copyright so much, right?
A little bit copyright.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So I'll have Kristina start.
Well, I'm not as tall as Roger, so I don't block any of the screen behind me. My name is Kristina DeHerrera. I am a patent examiner at the USPTO here in Denver. I have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, no degree in PowerPoint.
Is it there you go.
Oh, I was pushing the wrong button. Okay, so bachelor's in chemical engineering from CSU. I have some manufacturing experience. I worked for Anheuser-Busch for a few years between an undergrad and law school at a few different breweries. And then I went to law school at CU Boulder. I've been with the patent office here in Denver for 5 years since it opened. So I was one of the first classes of examiners to come to Denver. And I work in optics. So we are kind of the catch-all for anything with a lens or reflection or refraction that doesn't necessarily have another place to go in our specific sub areas. So this is just a quick overview slide of the USPTO. We are a very large agency. We have about 13,000 employees, mostly patents, but some trademarks as well. We only do patents and trademarks. We do not do copyrights. Copyrights are a different office. That's through the Library of Congress. We have 5 offices. So the USPTO opened an office in Detroit in 2012, in Denver in 2014, and then in 2016, they opened in Dallas and San Jose. And all of our offices have resources at the offices that you can utilize. We have presentations on a quarterly basis that we kind of rotate through, and I'll talk about the presentations that we have at the end here. But we also have a search assistance room if you want to come in and search for patents or trademarks. We have the ability to do that. You can do it at Denver Public Library as well, but you can come into our office and do that. We also have a room for interviews. So if you're going through the examination process and you have an examiner interview, you can do it from home on the computer, you can do it on the phone, or you can come into our office and sit in our interview room. We have a big screen. We also have a machine that I don't ever remember the name of, but where you can actually put your specimen under it, and it kind of, it looks almost like an old like projector that in school, to kind of give multiple views of your device, which is pretty helpful for people. And we do have a patent trial and appeal board hearing room. So if you want
I didn't
to
miss that, you'll have to slow down.
Sorry. The patent trial and appeal board, the PTAB, hearing room. And so we've had a few live hearings in Denver, but if you want to see a hearing somewhere else, you can also watch it in our office. What is intellectual property? So the way that we describe intellectual property is thinking of it as the fence. So your ideas and all of your art and everything that comes out of your brain essentially is inside the fence of your intellectual property. Just like your house is inside the fence of your yard, right? So your fence at your house is the boundary line for what your property is. For most of us anyways. I guess not everybody has fence. But your intellectual property just shows the boundaries of what's yours. Intellectual property and the US economy. So the driving force of world economies is essentially intellectual property. It's $1 billion, $1 trillion. The world really functions on innovation and invention. And these are just some data points from a couple of years ago. So IP strategy is a business strategy. It is attractive to investors. It's attractive to somebody who may want to buy your company at some point. It deters infringement lawsuits from other inventors or corporations. And it increases your leverage power when you're going into negotiations for mergers or acquisitions, things of that nature. Really, what you're doing is you're cutting out a piece of the pie and telling the world that it's yours. So we suggest that everybody who's starting a new business develop an IP strategy, which is basically going through and looking at what you have and deciding what you think is valuable. What do you have that your competitors don't have? Who are your competitors? Are they local? Are they national? Are they international? Right? So who else is in your space? What are they doing? What are you doing? And what's the best way to protect what you're doing? For some people, it's a copyright. For others, it's a trademark. For some, it's a utility patent. For others, it's just a design patent. So really looking at what it is that you have that you think is the most important thing and protecting that thing. So sometimes it's not always the most expensive option. So this is just an overview of the types of intellectual property. It's not coming up very well on the screen, but so we have utility patents, which protect how something functions, design patents, which protect how it looks, plant patents, which are for asexually reproducing plants. We have copyrights, so those are artistic works, trademarks, branding, and trade secrets. And I'll go through all of them in more detail, less blurry. So patents. A U.S. patent is an exclusive property right granted by the United States government to exclude other people for a specific period of time in exchange for your disclosure. So the key points of that are your US patent is for the United States only. There is not a world patent. Wherever you want to protect your idea, you have to protect it in that specific country or region. And it's a right to exclude, not a right to make. So your patent doesn't say you're the one who gets to do this. It says you're the one who gets to decide if anybody else can do this. Right, so it's a way of keeping other people out of your space for a specific period of time. So for a utility patent, it's 20 years from the day you file. For a design patent, it's 15 years from the day that it's granted. So those are different, but for the most part, if you go 20 years from filing, and then it's exchanged for public disclosure,
Can the patents be renewed?
no, a patent cannot be renewed. So once your 20 years is done, it's over. You can file continuations or continuation in part. So continuation is basically the same thing moving forward, slightly different, right? But it comes, all of the information in your continuation came from the parent application. A continuation in part is an improvement of your original patent. So if you filed a patent on a fork with 3 tines, and then, this is a terrible example, by the way, because you would never get a patent on this. But so, if you filed a patent for a fork with 3 tines, and you're like, oh, 4 is way better. Like, it really just gets that spaghetti on there. So then, 5 is gonna be too many. So then you're like, okay, well, we have this patent. We're gonna go ahead and file a new application for one with 4 instead of 3. Right, so that's a continuation in part, because it's your same invention, but it's an improvement of your invention. And that one gets 20 years from the filing. Does that make sense? So they're different inventions technically, but one invention gets 20 years and then it goes out into the public domain.
Isn't it filing within a year, right? You can file an extension every year, to push it out.
An extension of what?
So like when you file a patent, and then you want to do improvements on it, and then you file again, right?
It just has to be pending. So as long as the parent application hasn't issued. So,
Yeah, but your life is still based on your first file.
Right.
Yeah.
So you still just have a fixed 20-year window. In the
But
old
you have-
days,
you have a-
in the old days, you could do that.
You have a fixed
Yeah.
15-year patent on a design,
yeah,
but the extension of that design or the improvement of that design would be good for 20 years.
no.
Mhm.
So a design patent is 15 years.
Yeah.
And your utility patent is 20 years. So any design patent only gets 15 years from the day that you file
All right, so you file it. 15 years from that, it expires.
it.
But in the meantime, I improve it.
Okay. You could file a new application on your improvement.
And you get,
15 years on that. It's technically a new invention at that point. So 15 years on that new design. But your first design